All right, well, let's pretend that I have hit a bell. Why don't we all just go ding, and we'll get started. So I want to do a reading for you first, as is our habit. This is a quote from Joel S. Goldsmith, who I have endlessly found fascinating. He says, "We cannot adopt new ideas while still clinging to the outworn beliefs of the past. We must be willing to relinquish our old concepts. That is where the courage comes in and the daring. It takes courage to leave behind that which has proved to be unsatisfactory in our experience. It takes courage to look at ourselves objectively and ask, have I sincerely worshiped God? Have I in some measure lived up to my convictions about God?" I find that. Okay, so I'm Lori Kirstein. For anybody who's watching this afterwards, everybody here already knows me, but I'm going to give a talk about Welcome to the Great Awakening, because I know that none of us has seen a crazier and more disturbing time in our lives than we're living through right now. And so I want to explore some of the concepts, some of the thoughts that are keeping me sane during a time when it's extremely easy to feel defeated, helpless, hopeless, terrified. We need better energy than that, but it can't just be done because we wish that we could. We have to actually get our feet in the ground of our energy. And I just want to explore some concepts with you guys, and then we'll talk about it. So, whoops, see, I told you it would fall down. Um, all right, so here we go. We are in the midst of an extraordinary time of birth, and you've never seen a pain-free birth. The only time you'll see that is when the mother is under extreme sedation. But we have been sedated. We've been unconscious for a very, very, very long time. Okay, if you're going to fall all the way down, just go. All right. It has been the nature, that sedation, that unconsciousness, that I can't make a difference. That's been the nature of our human conditioning for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's also been the long journey of consciousness that we've collectively taken toward this time that we're in now. So on a human level, this time looks horrific, and it is. People are being hurt. We don't have the insider view on everything that's going on, so we don't have a sense of what will stop this and when it will stop. Situations are being changed. We don't know from one day to the next what's happening. But we must keep in our minds and in our emotional bodies two things. We must keep the nature of darkness and the far, far stronger nature of light. So I'll talk about that and try to make that more practical for you. We must also decide, and I think this crew, we will all decide, yes, whether we want to accept the invitation to demand of ourselves that we experientially come to know our true power, use it, and know that that is our experiential connection with divinity itself. So, what's happening right now? Why is this stuff happening on a spiritual, planetary level? What is happening? Well, one thing I learned to start with was that the planetary alignments that we're in right now have not happened. Planets have not aligned with each other and all the rest of it since the French and American revolutions. It's a few days ago. So that means that if you knew that coming in, if you were an astrologer, you were like, oh, hell, look what we're marching into. So that also means that we have an increased amount of energy and light, a more focused amount of spiritual and energetic light. And what that does is it upsets our balance. It shakes our bed if we're sleeping, And if we're sitting in the bed awake, it gets us the heck out of bed. And that's what it's supposed to do. So it also highlights, of course, all of the darkness. But I do want to remind you of something. If you look back over history, in alignment, at the same time as you've got lots of pain and lots of fear and lots of damage, evil never lasts. It can never, ever sustain its own weight in a limitless way. The nature of darkness is that it's too extreme, and any extreme cannot support itself endlessly. Now, darkness is impressive. It's scary. It's heavy-handed. It hurts people. It breaks our hearts. It leaves us going, I don't understand how anybody could be that uncaring. And it brings up the darkness in us. Now, what darkness I'm talking about is that it brings up some fundamental darknesses that we can now accept the invitation to let go of. Doubt and helplessness. The whole range of I can'ts are not true. In fact, you are actually, and I am talking about in an energetic sense, in a spiritual sense, in a who you are sense, you are never helpless. That's an impossibility. You may be incapable of certain things at a certain moment in your history, but you're made of the energy that created worlds. So the question is always, so if I'm made of all of this God stuff, how do I access this? How do I make this work? Because God knows we'd like that right now. Now, we have a lot of teachings, a lot of teachers out there, and you have to find the teacher you want to learn from next. And I think it's going to be a rapid sort of, I'm going to learn this thing from this teacher, and suddenly I feel full. And then I'm going to go to the next teacher because this is the next thing I want to understand. And you're not going to be easily permitted to go back to sleep. And it's going to feel better if you are in action. Because being in action, in inspired action in some way, beats the heck out of feeling helpless. Well, there are actually, by my count, 3 kinds of awakenings going on. So if you're tired, if you're not sleeping well, if you're feeling increased pain, if you are having suddenly more spiritual experiences, there's nothing wrong with you. We're all being up-leveled. Physically, emotionally, mentally. Oops, who's talking? Hey, there you go. Thank you. So the first kind of awakening, individual. It's a challenge to the ego. It's a challenge to the mind to look beyond the known. Okay. To realize everything from, oh yeah, I have to care about other people. So that's a really basic, but a really important level you can tell from our country. All the way through to, oh my goodness, I am one with the I am, with the divine. Understanding that, yes, God is the great mystery, but is still not separate from us. And we're not separate from it. This is the great mystery, and it is time to challenge anything within ourselves and gently that keeps us feeling anything but our own internal light. It's time to let go of the old religious tenets that were literally put in place to keep us compliant and obedient and helpless. That means questioning some really sacred cows in our religious and spiritual settings individually. That takes that courage that Joel Goldsmith spoke of. It takes tremendous courage. The individual great awakening is to our own limitlessness, our own power, and our own indivisibility with the divinity there it goes, of which we were made, bye-bye, and which is us. Okay, so that's the individual. Then there's the global. There's a global great awakening going on. Our human community is being forced to look at the same thing at the same time from all different perspectives. And it's being aided, this focus is being aided by the planetary alignments and all the shenanigans that are going on our human planet. Due to Aquarius being the planet of innovation and new things, there is nothing of the old that can go unnoticed. So even today, we have all kinds of really alarming news coming out, and it happens every day. And it's like, how much more can we take? That's because it needs to be brought to the light so that people can decide, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? How do I want to be in this time of great shift? Do I want to stay in my place of helplessness, or do I want to trust that if I take one step forward into doing something I might not have done yesterday, to have my voice, to have my presence, to believe in myself, that this will be a big deal, a bigger deal than just one person stepping forward. Now, I think that it's actually, in the long run, merciful that all of this change is happening so quickly, so that the death of the old is not long and drawn out. It's messing with us because it is so fast and it's so much. But one of the things I do to stay sane is I haunt YouTube and I listen to those people who understand politics better than me and understand astrology better than me, and who talk about the energies and who talk about the shifts that they see coming. And this is very balancing, which is exactly the other part of the Great Awakening, which is to the feminine. We have not lived in a world in which we've been taught to honor the feminine, not just women, but not like that's a small thing either, but I mean, not at all. But we've been taught go for the goal instead of celebrate the unfolding, the process. It's a very fundamental feminine aspect. Intuition, compassion, inspiration, creativity, fierce mothering. These things have been not only ignored, but shamed and put down. So the light of this global Great Awakening is that it's happening quickly, because that makes sure that people will not just go, well, maybe I'll go and demonstrate, or maybe I'll make a call, or I'll think about it a month from. No, everything's happening so quickly. Everybody is out of bed, awake, and going, there's got to be something I could do. And there always is. The third thing that's happening right now is human evolution. I haven't read the book, but I heard about it years ago, and it was mentioned on one of the YouTube channels I haunt recently. It's called The Fourth Turning. The idea of the four turnings is that every 20 years, there's another uptick in energy. So what is 80 years ago? The war. And after the war came the 50s and money, and all the white people were happy, right? What's behind me? Oh, sorry, guys. Oh my God. I apologize. So as you go through the four turnings, the fourth turning is the biggie. It's where something major shifts in our human community. This fourth turning is particularly remarkable. I don't think we've ever had another one like it in all of recorded human history, honestly. We've had great big changes, but this we're being physically transformed, it is said. You can play with this concept, you can reject this concept, but this is what I've been looking at and listening to and playing with, so I want to share it with you as something to think about. There's so much light that is coming into the planet. There's so much awakening. There's so much shaking up. And what it is doing is it is literally transforming some of our mass into light. I wish this were a weight loss situation, but I can't say that it is. But we are being shifted physically, emotionally, spiritually. That doesn't happen every 20 years. Okay? It just doesn't. So, what we are being issued is an invitation to wake up. And because I feel it is crucial to define one's terms, waking up means to understand that you're not separate from your power. You're not separate from the power that created worlds. And the invitation is to look at that in a practical way, to actually think about that. Go, how is that possible? How how can I make that possible? Now, um, imagine imagine that there's nobody to blame for stuff. I hate this, but imagine there's nobody to blame for stuff. And instead you go, this is what I asked me. I'll just put it that way. Maybe this will be more comfortable. I said to myself, what if I chose to go broke and homeless? What if my spirit chose that? And what if my spirit chose to be a part of this great awakening? Okay, well, the great awakening part sounds great. I feel like a superhero. But the part about going broke and homeless, I'm like, what, really? Why would I have possibly chosen to go through that kind of pain? And I started asking myself that question in a real way instead of that's not possible. How would I would never do that. I started to actually ask the question. And I think that that's what we're being asked to do. So my answer, by the way, I think I wanted to challenge myself to become financially, emotionally independent, strong, magical, and to know my own power apart from my family, but my birth family. I think I did all of that as a part of forcing myself to turn to the divine within myself, to look for my strength here and not in a guru, not in a God, not in a dogma. Doesn't mean I don't love God, doesn't mean I don't love my guru, but my power is here. So I think it's part of a greater story that I put in place for myself. See, there's no other reality than that of energy. And we call that God. We call that universe. We call that the divine. We call it Jesus. We call it Amma. And yet, that power we have to have free will, that's always there. And it made me think when I was writing this, it made me think about Henry Ford, who famously said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. What we think, what we believe in, what we resonate with, that's what we create for our individualized lives. And then whatever the mass is composed of our entire human community is what comes forward, which is why it's important for each one of us to do whatever we can to raise our energies and make life what we want it to be. So, what is my prescription? I have a few thoughts here. Then I'm going to want to hear yours at the end of this, of course. So, Acknowledge what you already know about your divinity. Acknowledge what you've already experientially felt and know about your connection with the divine. What does it feel like when you felt it, or if you haven't felt it? What have you felt that seems kind of high or otherworldly or magical? Acknowledge that this is powerful for you and that it makes you feel good. Number two, refuse to put energy into those beliefs and attitudes that pull you down and make you feel crappy. Number three, stop following your supposed tos without questioning them. Let yourself question them. Follow inspired action. Like sit back and wait for just a few minutes when you're like, I have to go do this, I have to go do that. Instead, like sit back and go, okay, wait, what do I feel? What do I feel that I would like to do next? Try inspired action. It's pretty interesting and it becomes a bit of an addiction, which is good. Number four, stop fighting with yourself. Stop fighting. This is the one that I'm in the middle of right now. Stop saying to yourself, I'm a very spiritual person, but I don't know if I can really trust it. You wouldn't have been hanging in here this long if it hadn't something in it for you. And if it feels that clean, if that energy is that clean, it's real. So if your thing is, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, define your terms. What does that mean for that I'm a spiritual being? Well, I'm pretty intuitive. I like when I use my intuition, it makes me feel good. Identify what it is, then allow yourself to be who you are. Just got two more. Stand in your godhood. And when you challenge anything that stands apart from that, don't challenge it like it's terrifying to you, even if it is. See if you can have a conversation, see if you can work with it, because I'm telling you that the darkness truly is 10,000 times stronger than the light. And when you are gentle and when you are relentless and standing in your truth, the dark dispels. Number six, talk to what hurts you, or scream at God, or explore your feelings and your beliefs about your pain or your poverty or your illness or your loneliness. What are you exploring those for? What is the purpose? Well, I want to get rid of it. I want more money. I want less pain. Of course. But we don't get that first all the time. So what we're looking for is the light. We're looking for anything that eases our way. That's called humility. That's real healing. It's in the feminine. So if you've been fighting your pain, how about instead a little tiny itsy bitsy bit of compassion for yourself, maybe even let a tear fall. So let me wrap this up. You guys probably know Psalm 91. I didn't know it was Psalm anything. I'm not really a biblical scholar by any stretch, but it says 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. And I keep thinking about that. I keep thinking about that. What is the it that will not come near you? Harm. Harm will not come near you. Does that mean you won't be impacted by anything? It depends where your energy is, but that's the point. It's your energy. Your job in the Great Awakening is to keep turning to yourself with great mercy, with great understanding, with a willingness to do what we haven't done in millennia, which is embrace actively intuition, inspiration, inspired action, love, compassion for ourselves. And not allow ourselves to have any excuse over the long term. for why we're not acting, we're not speaking, we're not trying something else. This is the Great Awakening. The Lord is that energy of which you were born and which you live even today. The Lord is that light of limitless love of which you are made now and forever. The Lord is your energy, your incredible energy, your heartbeat. It's the throb of the blood through your veins. The Lord is your higher self, and then how it branches out and it's already connected to everybody else's higher self. That's where our real lives are lived. So we need to feel into this. We need to open to this. We need to ask, how can I open to this more? Or what does it mean? We are being issued a wonderful invitation to, instead of going into the right and wrong paradigm, going into the little kid exploring a beautiful place that they've never been before. The Lord, the energy, the planets, all of the great saints and sages, all of the energy beings of light, and our human community are all with us. And we are spearheading all of it with our awareness that there is more, and that love and light and energy and childlike joy and choice and allowing and intuition and inspiration and laughter and inspired action are the way into our personal, planetary, and human awakening and evolution. And those are my thoughts about it. I'm eager to hear of anybody who's got something else to say, because this topic could be talked about probably for the rest of our lives, and probably will be. Anybody got something to share?
Thank you, Lori.
Welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for thanking me. Did you have something you might want to share? No, just thanking me?
Just thanking you.
Thanks, babe. Miss Lori R.
Thank you. That was an awesome talk. I think one of the biggest things I got out of that was to continue to look within. All of our answers are within us. Are we open to hearing them? Are we open to listening them? But more important, are we open to putting feet to them and doing them? I'm finding that, as I have been saying for years, there is a great awakening coming like no other. I did some math earlier today. 44 years ago in the Baptist church, they talked about a time when there would be a great awakening, only they brought out a negative side of it, that it would be false prophets, witchcraft, there would be miracles and soothsayers, and brought everything out of it that would have a negativity to it. Only those who believe in magic and believe in what they hear and what they feel and what they interpret within their own tuition can walk into this time, and I feel be used in a great way. And I have really struggled the last 2 weeks. There has been a negativity that has just surrounded me, that I searched within my home, I searched without my home. I kept feeling negativity towards other people. And all of a sudden I came to realize the negativity could be found somewhere within me. And I asked Spirit, I said, what is this? And what are you trying to help me see that I can move forward and be a blessing and a healer and do exactly what I know I've been called to do? And Spirit spoke very plainly. Do you really believe? My words are always, do we have faith to believe? You can't believe in the impossible until you first believe in it. You have to have something to believe in. And you talked on all of that tonight. What do we believe in? I know every one of us in this group have been on a journey for years to pull apart what we believe, what our traditions are. You're looking at family traditions, religious traditions that you've been taught at church. You look at work traditions, you look at family traditions, and you pull everything apart to figure out exactly what suits you and doesn't suit you. And in this time of our awakening, I think most of us are coming to a place where we have to put the dross aside, burn it up, get it out of our lives, where we're left with freedom to simply have faith to believe that our divine source can do everything that they have told us that they can do. It's not us doing it. We're just listening, we're just hearing, and we're just walking in that divinity. And that is how we can be used, by opening up ourselves and believing. You know, I always say all things are possible. Do people really believe that? How can you be healed if you don't believe all things are possible? If you come before a healer and you don't believe that you can be healed, how are you going to be healed? These are things that I think about all the time. And I often ask somebody that I'm working on, do you have faith to believe you can be healed or that you will be healed? I want to get their thoughts going in that direction before I ever have take any part in it. And so I loved your talk. I think there's a great awakening coming a lot sooner than we think it's coming. And the world is somewhat forcing it, as you said, because of things that are happening all over. The whole world has their eyes on this, not just the United States. The whole world is watching and looking and waiting. And I can see already the people that are coming forward. It's taking a little while to get things moving, but people are starting to come forward. They're starting to stand up for their rights. They're starting to say, no, we're not going to accept this. And I think if we just listen and ask, we'll all be given the answers of what our part is in this time. And I think we all already know. It's just a matter of, do we believe? Because it's not us that's doing it. It's our divine source doing it through us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I don't know how to believe unless I experience. So that's why I'm always leaning into experience about it. Yes, Miss Charlotte.
I like your thought. You're saying your speech tonight is wonderful. It touched my heart and soul. You always have something good to say concerning everybody's life, looking to the Heavenly Father who gives us life and His love. And I shed tears now. I still have the loneliness because I don't have a family. You're the only family I have. Is my church family. Because you don't know what it's like to be loved and lose love until you've lost it. And it hurts.
Mhm.
But I got a love that I shed tears now. They're tears of joy. And as the Lord said, weeping endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. I shed tears late at night, early in the morning. They're from the love that God gives because God, every morning, every night, the saints are with me. I have something that, as you say, it's not what you see, it's what you don't see that you appreciate. And it's the mysteries of God. It's the love that God gave me. I can't help but to love my enemies, my friends, my supposed to be loved ones. They don't understand me. And it's not for them to understand. And as the Bible says, you never let your left hand know what your right hand doing. And I trust God to bring everything out as the sister just spoke. God's people, all our sisters and brothers in Christ, and those that are seeking for Christ, is stepping forward now where they have been hid and afraid. But people are being born now to step in front of whoever they have to conquer in the name of Jesus, who died for all of us and gave us all another chance to the tree of life. And life is beautiful. I mean, you can't express it no better than thank you, Father. Thank you. He loves us. And I love everybody. I thank you for everybody, your prayers, your love that
Thank
you
you,
sent to
Charlotte.
me. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
baby.
you,
I
Charlotte.
love
We
you.
love you. We
God
love
bless
you.
you.
God bless you too. Anybody else have anything to add? Yes, Miss Ellie.
Enjoyed your talk. Um,
Thank you.
you had, brought up, lots of stuff. Always good when things are brought up because it gives us sometimes a place to start that challenging process. Because sometimes we don't know where to start that because, there's a lot there. So, where do we start it? And you were, explaining how, we haven't had this type of shift, in quite a long time. And of course, I read a lot, most people already know that about me. But, I'm reading 2 books right now and it talks about the goddess or the divine. And, one of them is Dancing in the Flames and, and it says the dark goddess, not evil, but, more or less the ones that are in the shadows. The warrior goddess, that would be considered a dark goddess because, she fights, you know. Anyway, and so it's, I just wanted to explain it because some people think the word dark means evil, and it doesn't always mean evil. Dark can mean, the shadows that we have within ourselves, which means usually we have to do shadow work. That doesn't mean it's evil. It just means those things that we have to, as you were saying today, bring up and challenge. The ego can be something dark because we don't want to deal with it. So I just kind of wanted to define that dark doesn't always mean evil. So the dark goddess and the transformation of consciousness, which is kind of like what you were talking about today. And the author says that, she's talking about the Virgin Mary. She's talking about the Black Virgin in the 12th and 13th centuries. Well, that was followed by the Black Death of the 14th century. So, a little bit of history. And, it was saying that the survivors of the plague, finding themselves neither destroyed nor improved, could discover no divine purpose in the pain they suffered. God's purposes were usually mysterious, but this scourge had been too terrible to be accepted without questioning. If a disaster of such magnitude, the most lethal ever known, was a mere wanton act of God, or perhaps not God's act at all, then the absolutes of a fixed order were loosed from their moorings. Minds that opened to admit these questions could never again be shut. Once people envisioned the possibility of change in a fixed order, the end of an age of submission came in sight. The turn to individual conscious lay ahead. To the extent the Black Death may have been unrecognized beginning of modern man. So anyway, the thoughts that, right?
Yeah. Nice.
I can send that to Brian, and if he wants, he can send it out to everybody else. But the fixed order that they're talking about refers to the hierarchical order of the feudal system, king, prince, dukes, all the way down to the serfs, and equally rigid was a hierarchy of the church. Pope, bishop, clerics, laity, all fixed in their place by divine decree. Not only was the divine purpose of the rigidly controlled patriarchal order questioned, but so was the divine purpose of death, which had hitherto been seen as part of the natural order. So the Black Death was a major shift in human perception in many areas. You know,
It's always a shift in consciousness, isn't it?
it
Any
is.
shift in our human condition is a shift in consciousness first.
It is. And then another thought, a friend of mine actually referred me to the book. It's called The Goddess Changes, and it's an out of print book, so I was surprised I actually found it. But it's talking about the goddess and the different aspects of the goddess. You know, where she has the warrior woman, the wild woman, the virgin, the crone. So the different aspects of who the goddess are. And we all have those aspects in us, male and female, the masculine, feminine, as you were mentioning today. But however, a lot of things during the patriarchal order, when it started to be, it put down that consciousness change. It put down the feminine. It put down the goddess. It put down all of that. And so, the goddess changes right now is talking about the warrior woman, and how she's a fighter, and how, the aspects, that we have, the pieces that we weave into our pictures and our emotions, how we weave all of that into the bigger picture so we can see what we're going to do next. As you were explaining earlier. And then the one of the paragraphs starts out, the trickster side of the warrior woman is very important, as this is a part that tricks us into action to start the process of change. So, you think, if you know the histories of the different deities, you think of Loki, he's the trickster. But is he really tricking us into something that's bad? Not always.
So your point, I think, is that what looks bad can actually be for good.
It can be. Right now, the awakening, what looks overwhelming, what looks scary, what looks fearful is actually being a catalyst for change.
I totally agree.
Lori R. and I have had lots of conversations, and I don't know when my awakening started, but whenever it started, me and her were talking like a lot. And I was questioning everything. We're still questioning everything, and Donovan and I were talking about this the other day. And I go,
we have to
what
we have to wrap this up in a minute because we're running late. So just to be aware. Go ahead.
And, what I had said, out of the books I'm reading, I share with him. And I said, this is simple to understand. And he goes, it really is. But when man gets in there, he complicates it. So only the elite can understand it. Right?
That's a talk you need to give. That's a talk you need to give.
And it was just like,
the elite understands anything, but that's a whole other topic. So,
but anyway, the what you were talking about, the changing, the knowledge, and you had said, the last thing, I promise, when you were saying that, during the lack of knowledge, you experience things. That's how you find faith. That's how you find, things. Well, and, in scripture, in Isaiah, I believe it says, my people perish. And, it's talking about, he's talking about his people. His people perish for lack of knowledge. Well, when you break down the word knowledge and you do a word study back in the Hebrew language, knowledge means experience. So my people perish for lack of experience.
I remember the first time you said that and it blew my mind because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. I can know a lot of stuff here, but if I can't actually enact something, do something, experience something as a result of my human action, then I'm left without arms, legs, and a will to keep
Mhm.
trying.
That's all I got.
That's awesome, Allie. Thank you. All right, well, let's do about 5 minutes of silence. And then we can come back and do what we do. Over. So let's just say a quick prayer of recognition, gratitude, acknowledgement, devotion, mad, wild, crazy, divine love together. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The fact that we understand that these feelings are as wild, mysterious, ever present, and acknowledgeable by ourselves in our feeling body, our mental body, our spirit body is the most amazing gift in the universe. We are so grateful that the divine shows its face in every single way that it does, saying to us, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And we see you and we thank you. And we are so grateful that you are always here helping us to grow, to heal, to emerge in more and more into that magic that we already are. God, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it most certainly is. And yeah, baby.